Hello, this is John from Revit for Interior Designers, and today we're going to explore 3 test cases of creating a glass wall using the curtain wall system in Revit. The first demonstration we'll do is this one here, where we'll create an entrance into this office space. The second use case is this situation here, where we have an office that has a corner window here, and that window does not have mullions. And in our final example, we have here a cutout in the wall and the same corner glass design. So let's get started. We're going to focus on this office first. This is part of a course I'm currently offering on our website at revitforid.com. I'll include the link in show notes below. So I'm going to navigate here to the floor plan, and here I will make the drawing wireframe, and I'll activate the CAD drawing that we're using as a background. So here under imported categories, we'll launch the partitions drawing, and there you can see that there is a CAD drawing in the background here that illustrates a door. And then there's a curtain wall system here that's slightly thinner than the actual wall itself. The wall is currently a 4 7/8 inch chipboard wall. So to get started on an area like this, you'd simply go to Architecture, Wall, and we'll use the curtain wall system. And so here we've got curtain wall number 1 under Edit Type, just to show you my settings. I've basically included a checkbox here for automatically embed, which will cut a hole in the wall once you place the curtain wall within the wall. And then it's using the glaze curtain wall panel, so we know it's going to be glass. And then in terms of joint conditions, border and vertical grid lines are continuous, are chosen to emphasize the verticality of the mullions. Everything else is empty. So with those settings, we're going to snap here in the center of the wall, click, and drag our mouse over here to the far right, and click on that wall there. Escape, escape. Now, if I change the colors here to shaded, you'll see what has happened. So the next thing we'll do is we'll locate where the mullions are going to be placed. Now, we don't really care about the end mullions on the curtain wall. We care about using a reference plane and locating any intermediate mullions or grid lines. So for example, this one, if I snap to the center of that mullion there and I draw a reference plane straight down, escape, escape. And here I can see there's a little line there for the joint in the window. If I snap to that location there, draw a line straight down here, this will be where the joint line will be, and this will be where the mullion's going to be. Now, if we look at this in elevation, I'll go to View. I'll use elevation tags here, elevation, and I'll point to it, elevation tag, escape, escape, and I'll double click on this arrowhead to stand in front of that wall. Now, we're not going to create this curtain wall exactly. Feel free to learn that lesson within my full-blown course, but we'll use the existing curtain wall system that's been given to us here. And honestly, I'll simply flip it over with the little arrow here and have the glass favor the exterior side of the room. With that being said, I'll double click here, and then here I need to expand on this crop box here to show the full height of the room there. And if I zoom in closely here, I can crop this box close to the drawing itself or the view itself here. And we're interested in this area here in particular. So currently, if I click here, that's the curtain wall. And again, curtain wall is a tool in Revit allowing you to create walls of multiple materials. In this case, the material is glass. And if I go to 3D view here, you'll see it there in elevation. Now, I believe these windows are all 8'2", so I'll click on this wall here, and I'll adjust the height to 8'2", which should be in line with the curtain wall adjacent to us. There we are. And then if we go to Architecture tab, I can launch the mullion command, And here I'm using a 2x4 custom mullion I created. Feel free to use any existing mullions if you haven't created any custom mullions. But if I use this all grid lines tool and I click on the curtain wall, it'll place the mullions throughout. Now I just need to locate where the door is going to be placed and where the center mullion is going to be placed, similar to the room next door. So let's go back to plan. And so here, this line represents where the grid line is going to be, and the end of the glass panel. And this represents where the vertical mullion is of the door. So if I double click on the arrowhead to launch elevation, I can go here, architecture tab, and curtain wall grid here, and click a grid line here, because if you have a grid line, it'll place a mullion on the grid line. So if I click on the grid line there, and I click on the grid line there, escape, and I erase my reference planes, I no longer need them, then you see here you've got two grid lines here. And if you have a grid line, they'll support a mullion. Without grid lines, you can't add mullions. So when I go here to mullion tool, and I've created a 2x4 mullion as an example, I can choose a segment, just one of the lines, one of the grid lines, and place a mullion on top of it. So here I'll choose this one here, click, choose this one here, click, and you can see I've created two mullions there. This will be the door, these would be the windows of the office space. I'll go to 3D. Here at the bottom, there's a mullion here on the floor right there, and that mullion would be a tripping hazard. So we'll click on that and delete it. And then finally here, we need to replace this glass panel, and I can find it by putting my mouse on the edge of it here and using tab until it highlights the panel. Then you click with the mouse, and there I've chosen that panel. In this case, the panel has a pin in it, which is trying to enforce a rule that expects this panel to be glass. And if you need to break that rule for your purposes, in this case, I want to put a door there, you need to unpin that panel. I'm going to unpin that panel. And the next part can be very confusing. You need to replace a glass panel with a door. And normally in Revit, you expect to drag a door onto a wall and it'll create the opening and place the door in the wall. Curtain wall panels do not work this way. The curtain wall system in general has different rules. In this case, you have to select the panel, and from the walls menu, you'll see the door that will take its place. And so to do that, you need to go into Insert and load a family, load Autodesk family from the cloud, and find a curtain wall door. So if I go to doors here, these here are labeled curtain wall doors. And what will happen is the door will replace the entire panel. So if the panel is 3 foot wide, then the door will become 3 foot wide. If you have a pair of doors, then 2 doors will become a total of 3 feet wide. And so you have to make a larger opening in the panel to create a larger door opening. I'd already loaded this one here. So to show you where they appear in the menu, you tab, click on the panel, you unpin it, it's already unpinned. Also up here is the unpin tool right there, it's deactivated. And you look here for all the candidates that can replace that panel. In this case, you've got door, curtain wall, glass. And if I click on it, it places that door in the opening. And then when I go to the plan view here, you can confirm that it's facing the right direction. Now, obviously it's not. It should be swinging into the office. There's a swing out of the office. So simply click on the door and use the up arrow there, and it swings into the office. To get the exact curtain wall design, for example, here to the right, those are included in my full-blown course. But this is just a quick example for you to understand these steps. So let's look at the second example. So here we are looking at an office space here in our 3D view, and this needs to have a glass curtain wall. Again, a glass wall in this location, yet it wraps around the corner. If I go to the plan view here, that location is basically here. And if I change the view to, let's say, wireframe, you'll see the CAD drawing beneath this. The CAD drawing also has these bubbles here. We can get rid of those if you like. But here is the curtain wall. This seems to be a mistake in terms of drafting. But here's the curtain wall. Turn the corner and ending right over here. As we've done in the past, we probably want some reference planes to determine in elevation where the panels are abutting one another and where the mullions are located. And again, we don't really care about the ends of the curtain wall. And so we'll go to architecture, we'll go to reference plane, and basically we'll locate the center of this mullion here. Click and drag your mouse straight down. Hold shift if you want to make sure that reference plane is perfectly straight. If I zoom here closely, I can see that there's a joint right there. So I'm going to steal that joint right there, that location. And I'm doing this to see these locations in elevation because obviously I can't see this plan when I'm standing in front of the wall. So click here and there's the reference planes. This one does not have a joint. And the panel basically starts here, turns the corner, and terminates over here. We need to figure out where it terminates when we snap to the center of that line there. Again, this wall is a 4 7/8 inch partition, and it'll receive a curtain wall system. And we'll use the basic curtain wall system without getting into any customizations. I'll go back to wall. I'll go back to curtain wall number 1. I'll zoom into this corner here, and I'll locate the center of the new wall, the curtain wall. And I'll place the mouse basically right there. Click, and I'll begin to drag it out. Now you see it's facing or favoring the interior of the room. I can use spacebar and flip the glass to the opposite side, which I'll do, and I'll drag it outside of the room here. Click. There's the one panel. I'll go over here. I will grab the wall. I'll find the center of that wall there. Click. I'll start a panel here, making sure the glass is favoring the exterior. It is, that rectangle below me. And I will hyperextend beyond the corner. There. And there I've made the curtain walls. If I go to 3D, you'll see they're crisscrossing each other. And they should be 8'2" tall. So if I click on this wall here, under the top constraint, I'll use 8'2". I'll take this wall here, I'll make it 8'2". And so we've got an 8'2" corner condition here. I go to plan view and I'll trim out these corners here. I no longer need the CAD drawing. I can see where the curtain wall terminates. So I'm going to go, I'll type VG and I'll simply go imported categories and just hide all the CAD drawings. There. I'll type TR for trim. Under modify, the trim tool is right there. AutoCAD calls it fillet. Trim. Click on this wall, and it will cut the corner. And something weird happened here that we need to investigate further. This is what happens when you're working with corners. So let's go back here in 3D, and you see that although the curtain wall panels are now trimmed at their intersections, there's a little sliver of wall here that comes down to the floor. So we need to fix that problem. To fix that problem, you need to update this wall here because that little sliver belongs to this wall here on the left. If I click on this wall here, you can see no part of this wall here is coming down to the ground. Therefore, this wall here owns that little leg there. We need to elevate that wall and remove that leg. So here I'll go to plan view again, and here I've got a little interior elevation tag that's facing that room. I'm going to shrink it down to size and make it a little bit smaller because it's going to be a little too long. I'm going to pull on these little grips and just focus in front of me on this wall here, and I'll pull this toward me here. And I'll double click on the arrowhead or simply go into the browser and launch the elevation that was created with this tag. Double click. ZA for zoom out if you can't see anything, and I did not see anything, so I zoomed all. And here's the corner, here's the wall right there. And you see there's this little sliver of the wall coming down to the floor. What I suggest you do here is change the wall using Edit Profile. Edit Profile takes a 3D model, say for example this wall, and lets you draft a 2D image that represents what that wall looks like in elevation. If I click on this wall, and choose Edit Profile, the wall is still a rectangle, and the curtain wall is cutting out a notch out of the corner. But we want to be explicit and describe what the corner looks like with the glass in order to eliminate this problem here where it comes down to the ground. So I'll use the pick line command and choose this line and this line. Escape. Trim, TR for shortcut. Trim this to here and trim this to here. And confirm that your outline is accurate. Put your mouse on one line here. Use Tab and click and confirm that that drafting is absolutely perfect. No lines left behind. Perfect corners, intersections. If the drafting is accurate, your work is complete. You accept this update. And then when I go back to 3D, lo and behold, you'll see the corner is now perfect. Right there. Okay, let's go back to plan. Let's see what else is going on here. So although these are supposed to meet at their corners, they currently are not. Let's make another elevation. We'll need another elevation to investigate this wall here in front of us. So I'll point to that wall there. And honestly, this is probably the only one I need because this is determining what that looks like in front of me here. Let's go back 3D. And so we've got a curtain wall here and a curtain wall there. And this needs to be subdivided into different separate panels and mullions. So I will go ahead and add the mullions. I'll go to mullion and I'll use all the grid lines, which I mean all the existing grid lines. And currently the only grid lines that exist are the left and right edge and top and bottom. So if I click on the panel, click, there you have it. If I click on this panel here, there you have it there as well. And so if I look at this in plan, and actually an elevation here, and again, this crop box is a little too short. I'm going to pull it up. Here's the wall in front of us, and I can exaggerate that by going to shaded mode here. This blue wall here is glass, and the mullions are surrounding the edges, and then you got your little corner condition there. So I'll work back here in 2D wireframe. Grid lines will cut out the glass at these locations. So again, architecture, grid. Click on this reference plane here, here, and here. Escape. These reference planes are no longer needed because I've now located the grid lines, the joints. So I'm going to delete those. And then this is where mullions go. So I'll go to mullion command and I'll place the mullion here of your choosing from the menu. I'll place one here, here, and here. This is going to be a door. And I got to remove that mullion here on the ground. Again, you can see it here. I can highlight it, delete on my keyboard. I go to 3D. I can see it there on the ground, right there. Click, delete on your keyboard. And then click on the panel. Tab, click. Unpin it. And replace it with a glass door. It shows up in the walls category because it's a special type of door. It's a curtain wall door. It's right there. Click on it. Return the plan to confirm that the door is swinging in the right direction. So double click here. It's not. I'm going to flip it here. I think it belongs this way. And then here is your corner condition. And you can see here, there's two mullions. There's one mullion there belonging to this curtain wall up here. There's this mullion here that belongs to the curtain wall on the right. So what we'll do then is return to 3D and then we'll delete these mullions. We'll select this one here by itself, delete on your keyboard. Select this one here, tab until you find it. It gets highlighted. Then you click, then you choose delete. And then there is the corner, and you see it's open here. Now, the next step is a bit permanent. If you do this step, you will not be able to modify this curtain wall any longer in terms of the spacing of the mullions and what have you. So you have to make sure your design and drafting is accurate. Assuming that this door is in the right place and you subdivided the curtain walls in the right number, here, if I want to close this gap, what you have to do is the following. If I tab, click on that glass panel by itself, I have to unpin it. And then what you do here is edit in place. As soon as you do this work, you will not be able to edit this model any longer in terms of any major changes. So edit in place. I click on this and I drag it over to the edge right there. And I remove the constraints or the rules that govern where the placement of that glass is. You've broken the rules here. And you accept it. Then I grab this panel, tab, click. I unpin it. And again, as soon as you use edit in place and you modify the design, you're stuck with that design. So I would do this last. Edit in place, click on the panel, and then drag that grip down to that panel there. Remove the constraints, that's where you're breaking the rules, and then accept. And then when you go to 3D, there's your corner condition where the glass is actually abutting each other and is correctly designed. Okay, let's move on to the last example. Okay, so here we are in the final design. This is a cutout out of a wall here, half-height wall with curtain walls wrapping the corner. This is probably the most complicated of the 3 examples. I've saved it for last. So if I delete this here and delete this here, you see you've got a normal wall. I'm going to reset this wall to the normal design here. This is what it looked like originally. So let's say you're here and you want to build that corner condition. So if I go to plan here and I zoom into this area, I want to see the CAD drawing again. And so I'll type VG and I will turn on the CAD drawings and show the partition drawing that we're currently covering in our class. And so here, the curtain wall starts here, ends here, just before that door there. And so again, we can draft that using the curtain walls here. So you choose curtain wall number 1, and I'll do the same technique. So I'll click on the midpoint of that wall. Drag a wall straight down. I'll use spacebar to flip the glass over. Make sure it's favoring the same direction on either side. This is favoring the left with the arrow here pointing toward the left. I'll make another curtain wall. Let's see, I'll go here and I will click on the edge of the wall there. Click, and I'll hyperextend beyond the corner here. Escape. So here's the condition. The glass is oriented the same direction. Again, you can see the glass if you go to shaded mode here. See where the glass is at. It's favoring the exterior of the room, facing outwards. And then you trim, TR for trim these 2 pieces together. You get this weird condition at the corner that you'll have to resolve. So when I go to 3D, I can click on this curtain wall and make it the right height. 8 space 2, 8'2". Click on this one here. This is 8 space 2. And here's the beginnings of the corner wall. So in terms of the design, there is a 3'6" half wall at this location around the corner here. And currently this little leg here is part of this wall on the right. So it's the wall on the right that we have to draft to trace the curtain wall and exclude this corner. So again, if I go to plan view here, I will go to view and I'll grab an interpolation tag and point that wall here. Make sure it's pointing up. You can always place it and later escape, move it straight down. So it's pointing to that wall there in front of us. And if I go back to my wireframe here, I need to see where the joints are. So if I zoom in here, I can see the little joint right there. So the CAD drawing luckily locates those joints for us. We don't have to do it ourselves. So I'll drag a reference plane there. And I will grab another reference plane and pick this point here, little joint line. I believe there's one other joint here. There's right there. Grab that joint, drag it straight down. So that tells us where to subdivide the panels. So if I look at this elevation, double click, this crop box is very short, maybe a foot tall. I'm going to pull it up here. And here is the wall in question right there. And the wall has a leg here that comes down to the ground, which is inaccurate. So in this situation, if you take a look, if I grab this curtain wall here and I made the base offset 3'6", as an example. And I grabbed this one here and I made the base 3'6" above the ground here. I've got these openings here. If I look at those in elevation, and again, there's a leg right there that's incorrect. If I click on this and edit the profile, then what I'd probably want to do is include an opening that takes into account the sill. So when I use the pick line command to trace the opening, I'll click on the top, I'll click on the bottom, I'll click on here on the far right side here, and then I'll cut this line out of here. I'll trim the top and trim the bottom. I'll use the split line command, cut the line in half, escape, TR for trim this to here, trim this to here, and then escape. If you want to test, you can hover over one of the lines, use tab. That's the shape of the wall when you complete this command using edit profile. I'll accept it. So that takes care of the one wall over here. And for the most part, it actually took care of the other wall here as well. Now let's add some mullions to make sure nothing breaks. So we'll go here to mullions. I've got a mullion called 2x4. You have the basic mullions in your library. You can make new mullions if you like. Add it to all the grid lines. All the grid lines here, all the grid lines there. And then obviously cut out where the panels are supposed to be here. And so in elevation here, these are, I think there's another joint missing here. So let's pick that up. There is right there. If I grab a reference plane and pick up that little line right there, that's the next joint that we want to include. So now if I take a look at this in elevation, escape, double click on the arrow, I can grab a grid and snap here to these lines here, and that makes joints in the panel. Now design-wise, in this situation, they'd like to have these glass panels abut each other without mullions. So we'll leave it like this. I will grab these reference planes here below the ground here. I will select them, delete them, which I don't need them any longer. And when I go to 3D here, I delete this corner mullion. Select the mullion, choose delete on your keyboard, select the other corner mullion, tab if you have to, delete that corner mullion. And then again, you're stuck with this situation here. Again, if you were to repair this corner here, and then here, I'll take a look at that in shaded mode. If I were to repair this corner and close the gap and abut the glass against each other, then you're not going to be able to customize the curtain wall any longer. It'll break the curtain wall system. So I suggest you do this step last if you need to clean up this corner and make it accurate. And so I'll go to plan view and I'll turn off the CAD drawing. So we have no distractions here. And then here's the corner we're talking about here. So it involves having to grab this panel here and use edit in place. Grab this panel, use edit in place. And by using that tool, you'll break the curtain wall. You'll no longer be able to edit it without causing some errors. You're better off just drafting it from scratch if honestly that's the case. But if you wanted to make these conditions closer and you want these to meet, you do the same steps again. You grab the panel, tab. When it's highlighted, you click on it. Then you unpin it. And then what you have to do is with this highlighted, you choose edit in place. Then you grab the panel and you drag it over and make an alignment happen, and you break the rules, which is removing constraints. And then you accept that work. You then grab this panel here, assuming there's no revisions to be had here. You grab this panel, tab, click, and it's highlighted by itself. You unpin it. It tells you here it's a panel. You edit in place. You grab the panel and you drag it down to the location you want. You remove the constraints and you accept it. And now when you return to 3D, you'll get a butt corner basically here where the glass is butting up against each other. And you've got all the joints here in between. So there in a nutshell is how to handle different conditions of curtain walls in Revit to create your glass wall interiors. Okay. To learn the full exercise, feel free to peruse my classes online at revitforid.com, and feel free to subscribe to watch more of these lessons. See you next time. Bye.